Hey, this is Kaveh from Pleasurekraft, and you're watching Brandnite TV.
Welcome to a new episode of Brandnite TV. I'm your host Philipp, as always, and we have a very special guest tonight again. Please welcome Kaveh of Pleasurekraft. Welcome to Vienna.
Thank you so much.
This is not the first time that you're in Vienna. Actually, you've been here the last time at the Avicii event at Pyramide Füssendorf by True Entertainment. Have you ever been here? Have you been here again ever since that time?
Yeah, I actually spent a few months here. I've lived here for those months. I also played several venues around Vienna. First time was in Brauerei. I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Otterkringer Brauerei.
Yeah, that was with Fritz Kalkbrenner, and played at Beatport a couple times. So yeah, I'm quite familiar with Vienna and really love the fans here, and I'm really excited for Saturday night.
At Flex, the infamous Flex.
My favorite club in Vienna.
Really?
Yeah. For this music, yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
You know what the most dangerous thing in America is? Nigga with a library card. Cause you know where I come from? Smart as a new gangster. Now come on.
Speaking of Vienna, you are from Washington, actually. Your production partner is from Stockholm. So how did you guys meet, and how did you guys come together to make music? Because you're from the United States, he's from Sweden, so it's like the other side of the world. How did that come together?
It was about 2007, and I owned a label then that I was running already for a couple years, and I was also producing, and both Kalle and I had releases out on the same label, which was Anjuna Deep, which was Above and Beyond's prog house label, not modern prog house, real prog house, but and mine came out first, and then his came out. When his came out like a month later, both of ours were kind of way more techie than anything else Anjuna Deep had put out. So I got in touch with him over MySpace. And back when people still used MySpace, and one thing led to another, and I said, hey, would you mind doing a remix for my label, Brand New Vibe? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem, send me the parts. So I sent him the parts of this track called Dancing with Strangers. He worked on it some, sent it to me, and I go, oh man, I really love what you did here, here, and here, but I had a couple ideas for these other sections. Can you send me what you did? Because I want to try some things. He's like, yeah, sure, I don't mind. So he sent me the parts, I worked on it, then sent back what I did, and he was like, wow, it's amazing now, like, with both the parts in there. I was like, how about we just release it together? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. Of course, then we didn't have the name Pleasurekraft, and both our names are long and complicated, so it's a very unsexy name for, you know,
what was it?
Two people. It was just like our real names, that's all, yeah. He actually was using a moniker, but the moniker is itself hard, Charles Gudagafa. So it's like, why would you choose a name that's even harder than your normal name? But anyway, it was quite complicated. And then we ended up doing 4 tracks together before we had ever met in person. Did a remix for Chymera, the Irish techno guy, remix for John Acquaviva's Definitive label. And it was actually John who was like, guys, you need to come up with a better name. I mean, your names are just too complicated, and you're working together. So after a while, we came up with Tarantula as the track, and we were like, all right, this is either going to be really big or a huge disaster. So we should probably come up with like a proper name now, since this track is really unique sounding. And, the name's from that American TV show Dexter. And it stuck, and the track went huge, and of course we're really happy with all the success and everything, and that's kind of the story how we met.
That's actually a nice story. actually. Speaking of Tarantula, Tarantula probably was your biggest hit, like Pleasurekraft's biggest hit till date. Which brings me to the question that everybody's discussing right now, like underground versus EDM, underground versus mainstream or commercial music. All these beefs that we had in the internet between DJ Sneak and Steve Angelo, for instance. How do you, what do you think? How can you define the borderline between underground music and commercial music, especially nowadays that even the underground acts like Luciano, Ricardo Villalobos are also playing in front of 30,000 people? So what is the musical difference between underground music if it's also as mass compatible as EDM is? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was, last week I was doing a show with Umek and somebody asked a similar question, asked him about EDM. And Umek is from Slovenia, and they don't have that term EDM because it's an English term, American term. And he kind of looked at me like, "What's EDM?" and it kind of, that moment for me is the exact definition of what I think is so silly about this whole debate, that for whatever reason, human beings like to neatly categorize everything to make everything easier to understand in their life. And so they have to put labels on things. And EDM, I mean, these 3 letters have caused so many arguments on social networks between fans, between DJs, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's just commercial dance music. I mean, it's been around forever, but only since it's blown up to the majority that it has, that you can turn on the most mainstream radio station and hear David Guetta and hear Swedish House Mafia, that people who, you know, feel like they've spent so much time and dedicated so much of their lives to the underground movement that it's being commercialized to such an extent, have a problem with it. And I appreciate that because I've been in the scene for a while, like as a DJ, and you know, before Pleasurekraft ever existed. And of course, you know, you never like to see something that's dear to your heart be bastardized like that. At the same time, I also feel like that accessibility that commercial EDM gives to fans could be a gateway. I know when I first started getting into electronic music, I wasn't listening to the most underground things. I think like a lot of people, like we got into it like something that we don't listen to at all anymore. And it's kind of like, oh yeah, that was awesome. And now you look back like, God, I can't believe I listened to that crap. But now you're like really into the underground stuff. And I think, you know, that's how it is for a lot of people. And I think if they initially get hooked on the commercial dance music, it's not the end of the world. It's hopefully going to be planting a seed for them digging deeper as they grow older.
I think that's what I think is going to happen in the US anyways, because I can remember when Eurodance was big in Europe in the 90s, we had this term techno and rave. So everybody was into rave. Yeah. And after like 2 or 3 years that everybody knew rave, people, as you said, dig deeper and they discovered deep house, tech house, vocal, soulful. So I think it's just a matter of time until the whole EDM thing has to move away for the subgenres to enter the commercial place.
Yeah, I agree.
You seen all those old white movies? Them drums got power. You seen them old white movies and white folks in the jungle? Man, stop. You know that shit is the truth.
Now that the technology evolves so fast, there's also discussions out there between playing with vinyl, with CDs, with USB sticks, with Traktor, with Ableton Live. You know, what do you think about this whole technology DJing kind of thing?
The simplest way for me to use it is, for me to explain it would be, technology should be used as a launch pad for you, not as a crutch. If you don't know how to do something correctly, you shouldn't rely on technology. But if you know how to do something and you can use technology to make your performance better, there's no reason why you shouldn't use it. I started DJing in 2002. spent way too much money driving from Washington, D.C. up 95 to go to Josh Wink's 611 Records in Philly. Just have so many crates of vinyl sitting at home in storage, collecting dust, too heavy to carry. But I learned on vinyl, switched to CDJ, switched to USB, and now I use Traktor with a machine controller. And like I've done like the full continuum. If my laptop were to break, which happened at a gig, if something were to happen, I can easily jump on CDJs. If I had vinyls with me, I could easily play a vinyl set, no problem. The problem becomes when you don't have that background, you've only learned how to sync on Traktor or whatever, Final Scratch, or what's it called? Yeah, Serato, sorry. Or you made your set already in Ableton, and you show up to the club and the laptop fails, and you're fucked for, I don't know if I can curse on here or not, but basically that is a problem. Because
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just read a couple of days on Twitter that the German kid Z was on a tour in the US, and he tweeted, "Sorry guys, I couldn't play the show tonight because my laptop was broken." And I was like, you know, I don't know him. I wouldn't reply my Twitter tweets anyway. But I was just thinking, you know, don't claim yourself being a DJ. If you have your setup with Ableton, you have your setup with your like Pioneer kind of controller thing. But if this thing is not working, not able to DJ, what kind of a DJ are you? Go home, man. Be a producer. Produce Lady Gaga. That's all right. He's an awesome producer. Nothing against that. But don't call yourself a DJ. Come on, this is embarrassing for all DJs out there.
I think the scene has changed so much, and Beatport has fueled a lot of it. Not in a bad way, but just creating a lot more consumers for this music, and a lot more promoters that are booking producers that have never DJ'd before, and putting them in situations where, like, yeah, this guy's the DJ tonight. Well, that guy's not a DJ; he's a producer. And despite the fact that everyone thinks that anyone can DJ, there is actually a craft to it, believe it or not. And you can, if you've been in the scene, you can tell when someone's not a good DJ and they're just up there. But, you know, selling tickets based on productions doesn't mean that you can necessarily DJ. I mean, you know, for me, it's kind of like if you're going to go out there and perform for people, there's a narrative that you're telling with the set that you're playing. And I grew up listening to guys like Carl Cox, Nick Fanciulli, you know, people like that, that when you go to their set, it's not all like, like all peaks, like all energies at 11. It's not like that. I mean, there's like a trajectory to everything. And, you know, you have your highs, you have your lows. I mean, not too low, obviously, but you know what I'm saying? It's a story through music. And that's kind of the model that I've kind of followed. And some of these guys, you know, they go up there and they play an hour and a half set, all at like super high banging thing. And, you know, for me, it's like our set, I can't even get into the groove yet. I mean, I prefer to play 3-4 hours. Flex is a 3-hour gig. I mean, like if I'm playing a proper club that I know I'm gonna like, and it's not a VIP club, minimum it's a 3-hour set, because I like doing that full trajectory.
But it's the same. It's the same with me. When I started DJing, it was, I think, in 1997. I was really, really young, and I had my first club gigs with 16, and I had, you know, I was just able to buy records with my pocket money, which wasn't a lot back in the days. And I played from 10 o'clock in the evening to 4 o'clock in the night, and I had about 120 records with me. And I knew, okay, I can only play every record once, except for an EP where like 2 tracks on the whole vinyl. So I learned how to build up a set and how to take people on a journey, which DJs nowadays don't have to learn, because they check 1001tracklist.com, get the whole tunes that the Swedish House Mafia plays, and then they wonder, and then they go to a club and play that at 11 p.m. and ask themselves why it's not working. So totally agree. There's a craft to it, a pleasure craft.
Very good. Yeah, I'm gonna steal that actually.
No problem.
I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than that.
But, you know, as Tarantula was a really huge hit, and even people who are not into electronic dance music know the track from club nights, from parties, from friends that played it to them. How do you prevent yourself from becoming more commercial that you actually wanted to be due to a hit that you released?
I think the difference is if the artist's original intent is to make a track that's extremely accessible for the masses, including people that don't listen to that genre of music, then you're setting out from the beginning to make a more poppy track. We never set out with that intention. That track came together, in my opinion. Tarantula is an underground record that crossed over into the mainstream because of the strength of its hook. The hook is not poppy, it's weird. It's a weird record. I remember when we got the feedback form for Tarantula, all the DJs that were playing it, which was a long list, and so many of them were like, wow, very unique, very weird. They weren't like, pop tracks and commercial tracks aren't unique. There's a formula to them. Tarantula is not a formulaic track, but sometimes, every once in a while, you have tracks that kind of cross over like that. We were fortunate that Tarantula did that for us and opened all these doors, but we never set out to say, let's make a record everyone's gonna buy, you know? Especially because when it came out, there was no other records like that at that time that sounded like that, which is one of the reasons it did well. So it's kind of like, either you're gonna take the path that everyone else is taking and get into the trend like Prog House is right now, which I don't even consider that Prog House, or you make something completely different, and once in a while you get lucky and it strikes a chord with you know, a large majority of people. But that record was a word-of-mouth record. Beatport didn't give us a banner. There wasn't much publicity. That was like a word-of-mouth record. Like, you'd see it climb slowly. It didn't like jump into the charts like all these, you know, huge acts now that release. Yeah. I mean, that was a word-of-mouth record. Like, people going to clubs and then being like, what's that record? And then going home and buying it and telling their friends. And then you get like Chucky and Steve Angelo playing it too, along with, you know, Digweed and Danny Howells and all these people who have been in the underground for so long. So, you know.
Congratulations again.
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm so sick of Tarantula in a way, but...
so it's like the sentence, be a voice, not an echo.
Yeah,
actually.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Did you ever find yourself in a situation as a DJ that a promoter or club owner booked you because of the huge success of Tarantula, and people expected you to play commercial music because you had the commercial hit record, and you found yourself in the situation that people like were requesting Swedish House Mafia and everything, and you really had to explain why you don't play that kind of music?
With Tarantula, no. I mean, a lot of the bookings initially did come from having such a huge hit, but we had a record on Great Stuff that went to #2 overall, right behind Tarantula, like only a couple months after, and then we had the La La Land remix for Green Velvet. So it was like three things right after another. Of course, everyone remembers Tarantula, but at the same time, it was like, I didn't feel like, oh man, if I go to this club, I don't know what to play because I don't have anything else that's like Tarantula. That's not true because I play tech house. I feel more that way about Carney. Like, I slightly regret having released Carney as a Pleasurekraft track because, yeah, Tarantula got us a lot of great bookings, but they were still mainly underground clubs. After Carney came out, even though it didn't do as well, it stayed around longer, and it's a much more poppy track. And a lot of people that booked me were like, oh, you have to play Carney, and you get to the club, and it's a VIP table service club. And then I'm like, oh, boy, this is going to be hard because I don't have any other tracks like Carney. And it's, you know, for lack of a better word, a more commercial track. We didn't set out to make it that way, but when it came together, we're like, yeah, we're happy with this, it's cool. But hindsight is always 20/20, and you always look back wiser than before something happens. And so, yeah, with Carney, I definitely feel like, yeah, probably got some bookings that were difficult for me because I don't really play tracks like that. And, you know, had some issues in Vienna in the past where, you know, I'm not going to name names, but some big names here were like, no, you can't play that club because it's too underground. I was like, what do you know about Pleasurekraft? Like, Carney. Like, yeah, exactly. I don't play Carney when I play live anymore.
but that's typical for Vienna. That's really typical for Vienna. It is.
Yeah.
We can do a Brandnite TV special just about Vienna so that you all guys know what Vienna is all about. Let's leave the past in the past and talk about forthcoming things. You have a record out with Umek that you just mentioned before. What's coming out next from Pleasurekraft? You just said before we started the interview, Miami's coming up. What are your summer plans? Any releases, shows, festival that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, we have the next thing out is going to be in April. It's going to be the first of 2 collaborations with Format B. The second one will be out in May, so we're kind of spacing them 1 month apart. And then in June, we have a new EP that's kind of the follow-up to the American Hustle EP that we did with JCO and Vedic. But this will be out on Bitten, which is 100% Pure's kind of sister label from Amsterdam. And then in July, we have our big summer track coming out, which you'll hear if you come Saturday, but I don't want to talk about it much. I'll just say it's a remake of a track from '97, so that we did in a real tech house style, and it's instantly recognizable as a Pleasurekraft track with the vocoder stuff. So everyone that's like complains when like American Hustle comes out, like, when are you gonna do the vocoder stuff again? It's coming. Just don't want to repeat yourself too much as an artist. You know, you're always trying to push boundaries. So, and then working on an album, which probably won't be out till early 2014, but have a bunch of club records coming out, but the album is not going to be club records at all. It's going to be much more like a electronica album. Like, closest thing I could compare it to would be like a Mike Snow record or something. Right. So, yeah.
So one last question to close the interview. The question that I ask all artists that I interview: if there's one living person on earth that you would like to work with, who would it be?
Maynard James Keenan, who is the lead singer for Tool, Perfect Circle, and now Pussifer. It's been kind of an inspiration for me growing up, and to this day, I just think of him as the closest thing to a fully enlightened human being as one can get, with an incredible voice. So.
That's the word, actually. So thanks for taking your time. Have fun at Flex Saturday. And everybody wants to check out Pleasurekraft's productions and gigs. Check out
Pleasurekraft.com with a K, obviously. If you don't know that, you're probably not watching this video.
Not, but the K, Pleasurekraft with K, not the .com with the K.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
All right, see you soon. Have fun. And I'll see you with the next interview. Bye.